The US government spends more money than it collects in taxes every year. This creates a budget deficit, which adds up to the national debt. The national debt is now over $31 trillion, and it keeps growing. But the government can't just borrow money indefinitely. There is a limit on how much it can borrow, and that limit is called the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling was created by Congress in 1917 to give the Treasury Department some flexibility in financing the government's operations. Since then, Congress has raised the debt ceiling 78 times, whenever the debt approached the limit. However, raising the debt ceiling has become more difficult and contentious in recent years, as Republicans and Democrats have clashed over spending priorities and fiscal policies. Republicans want to cut spending and reduce the size of government, while Democrats want to invest in social programs and infrastructure. Both parties accuse each other of being irresponsible and reckless with the taxpayers' money. The current debt ceiling is $31.4 trillion, and it was reached in August. Since then, the Treasury Department has been using accounting tricks to keep paying the government's bills, such as postponing payments to federal retirement funds or borrowing from other accounts. But these tricks will run out soon, and the Treasury Secretary has warned that if Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling by June 1, 2023, the government will run out of money and default on its obligations. A default would mean that the government would not be able to pay its creditors, its employees, its contractors, its beneficiaries, or anyone else who relies on federal payments. This would have devastating effects on the economy and the world. Interest rates would spike, credit markets would freeze, stock markets would crash, businesses would fail, jobs would be lost, pensions would be slashed, social services would be disrupted, and global confidence in the US dollar and its leadership would be shattered. That's why many experts and leaders have urged Congress to act quickly and raise the debt ceiling before it's too late. They argue that the debt ceiling is not a tool to control spending, but a legal obligation to pay for what Congress has already approved. They say that failing to raise the debt ceiling would be like refusing to pay your credit card bill after you've already made purchases. They warn that playing with the debt ceiling is playing with fire, and that no one should gamble with the full faith and credit of the United States. But some lawmakers are not convinced. They say that raising the debt ceiling without addressing the underlying causes of the debt is irresponsible and unsustainable. They say that the government needs to live within its means and stop borrowing money from future generations. They say that they will not vote to raise the debt ceiling unless they get concessions from the other party on spending cuts or policy changes. They say that they are willing to use the debt ceiling as leverage to force a compromise or a showdown. This is where we are today. A stalemate between two parties with different visions for the country and different approaches to fiscal management. A standoff between a White House that wants to raise the debt ceiling without conditions and a House Speaker that wants to use it as a bargaining chip. A countdown to a deadline that could trigger a crisis unlike any other in history. Will they reach a deal? Will they avoid a default? Will they save the economy? Or will they play Monopoly with our future? This is how the White House is playing Monopoly with the debt ceiling deadline. The White House and the Republicans are locked in a standoff over how to raise the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling is a cap on how much debt the federal government can accumulate. It needs to be raised or suspended by June 1st, or the US will default on its obligations. This could have a big impact on the global economy and the country's credit rating. The Republicans are demanding spending cuts as a condition for raising the debt ceiling. They want to reduce the size and scope of the federal government. They also oppose any tax increases on the wealthy and corporations. They say that raising taxes would hurt economic growth and job creation. The Democrats are offering to keep spending flat and raise taxes on the rich and big businesses. They say that this would help pay for the government's existing legal obligations, such as Social Security and Medicare benefits, military salaries, interest on the national debt, and tax refunds. They also say that raising taxes on those who can afford it would make the tax system more fair and progressive. The two sides are far apart on reaching a deal. President Biden has met with congressional leaders from both parties, but no agreement has been reached. The Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has warned that there will be hard choices to make if the debt ceiling is not raised. She said that some bills will go unpaid and that the U.S. could lose its reputation as a safe and reliable borrower. The debt ceiling debate is not new. It has been raised or suspended 78 times since, but it has become more politicized and contentious in recent years. Both parties have used it as a leverage to push for their policy agendas. But experts say that playing with the debt ceiling is risky and irresponsible. They say that it could undermine the stability of the financial markets and the confidence of investors and creditors. Will the White House and the Republicans find a way to break the impasse and avoid a default? Or will they push the country to the brink of a fiscal crisis? The clock is ticking and the stakes are high.